Welcome to VPG's Virtual Water Cooler Chat podcast, where we share lessons and stories of women professionals to help empower other women and expand a greater circle of influence so we walk our journey with those who understand and appreciate us. This episode of Virtual Water Cooler Chat is sponsored by Planet Depots. As a leader in the global court reporting industry, Planet Depots provides court reporting and litigation technology services throughout the U.S. and abroad to international law firms, worldwide corporations, and government entities. Led by court reporters and renowned industry experts, Planet Depots has extensive experience reporting complex matters around the globe, including arbitrations, trials, and depositions. At the forefront of litigation technology innovation, Planet Depots works closely with clients to implement case-winning tools, including remote depositions, streaming text and video, digital court reporting, and digital exhibits. Visit planetdepots.com to learn more and schedule your next legal proceeding. Today, we'll chat with Dr. Mandy Song about overcoming triple challenges. Dr. Song brings more than a decade's experience in patent practice, including patent prosecution, client counseling, patent portfolio management and transactions, patent litigation, and post-grant proceedings before the Patent Trial and Appeal Board of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. She is a founding and managing partner of Bays PLLC in McLean, Virginia. Dr. Song received her BS in electrical engineering at Tsinghua University in China. Both her MS in biomedical engineering and her Ph.D. in electrical and computer engineering at Duke University, and her J.D. at Georgetown University Law Center.
Hello, Mandy. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Ashley.
Thank you so much for accepting our invitation on this virtual water cooler chat. I am so grateful that you said yes. And it's so good to actually see you after our chance of working together before. So without any delay, I am going to start with my first question. But we went through your professional background, well, at least the Cliff Note versions of it. Would you mind sharing your cultural background or whatever that makes you Mandy?
Yeah, sure. I was born in China, and I was raised there, and I finished my college in China before I came over to the United States. And that journey is full of challenges, as you could imagine, from the East to the West, from STEM, science, technology, engineering, math background, where I studied electrical engineering for my college, even after college when I came over here. I studied my Ph.D. in electrical and computer engineering, but I decided to jump over to the legal profession. So all those kind of transitions are full of challenge. And I think what makes me as Mandy is I'm always ready to start over, to face new challenges. And at this point, you know what, I feel comfortable about basically any new stuff. Like I got it. I have a way to deal with new challenges. Nothing is too bad. If I can overcome the triple challenges, I could do anything. So that kind of mindset is I think uniquely define me.
Well, that's why we call your episode Overcoming the Triple Challenges. So thank you so much for that. Do you have any role model growing up? Because it's probably, I don't know, I guess stereotypically women in science, especially in China. Can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of chose that path or journey?
Yeah, I do have role models. I don't have just one role model. I have different role models for different stages of my life. And although I do read a lot of biographies of famous people, I tend to choose role models who are close to me, at least I would say reachable, right? Somebody I could really follow and kind of feel that she or he is there. So growing up, I have role models like my teachers, my alum from my university, and coming over, dean of my engineering school at Duke University. And currently, I think my role model is our new director of the USPTO. So all these people inspire me because at that particular stage, there are challenges I need to overcome, and these people give me kind of certain suggestions of paths that I could overcome those challenges.
Well, you sort of my role model too, because you went out and started your own law firm. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that, actually.
Well, it's based right there.
Yeah, talking about that, I actually shared before that my inspiration of starting a new law firm is actually coming from an online episode that I watched. That was an interview of Doug Henderson, Finnegan Henderson, Mr. Henderson. And he talked about how they founded Finnegan and how it grew from, 3 people to maybe like 35. And they were like, wow, we couldn't imagine that we're already 35 attorneys. And I said to myself, that's kind of the journey I wanted. So I just jumped on it. And I'm so glad that my experience actually formed part of your inspiration to start such a wonderful company that you're doing. For me, it's a new challenge. I constantly looking for new challenges. Now Bayes is a law firm that is a minority owned, 100% minority owned, and a women-led law firm. And I think we're very fortunate that we get to do the exact practice that we wanted to do. It's been a dream, and I'm really glad that we had the gut to do it.
Well, I'm really glad that you had the gut to do it too. Now, being a lawyer, lawyers and business owners, they don't necessarily always share the same traits. And sometimes, especially understanding financially, when you just work as a lawyer, as a working attorney, it's very different from running your own business. So there's a lot of leadership principles that you have to integrate. And theory and practice, sometimes it works very differently. So what are some of the major challenges that you have to overcome? Being a practicing attorney, but also a woman leading a patent law firm.
Yeah, the legal industry is very, very different. It almost require, in order to be successful in our industry, almost require you to be a good attorney, but also a good businessman or businesswoman. And interestingly, at law school, we only learn the legal part, never the business part, right? But I think, running a law firm, the foundation is still the legal practice. You do have to be a good attorney in order to have a successful practice. I mean, a successful law firm. But on top of that, it's just a lot of learning on your feet. I remember when we started Bayes 5 years ago, everything other than our own practice is new. We got to learn payroll, we got to learn tax, we got to learn marketing, everything that we kind of assumed when we were practicing on a bigger platform is now our own responsibility. But it just, I guess, use a bit of your common business sense, but then ready to learn everything, pick them up and adapt them into in a way that fits your own practice, then you're good to go. I'm gonna, go ahead and say it. It's hard to start a new business, as you probably experience now, but it's not too hard, and we can figure it out.
Well, I think the major difference is that you do have partners that you share with. For me, when I started, I guess I wasn't thinking about scaling the business because I just wanted to have some wellness. I just kind of wanted to do something completely different. But I'm still serving the legal industry. So somehow, I'm a very ambitious person. I'm driven. And I don't know that I'm really competitive with others, but I'm very competitive with myself. So I just keep setting goals higher and higher. Sometimes I don't know where it was going, but my business now is at 3 years. And congratulations on yours being 5, because that's usually a really good mark. So congratulations. And I think that for me, it's a little bit lonely at times, even though I do have team members that I consult with. But in terms of like financial, and I come from the legal industry, so I do have a little bit inherent conflict is between being risk averse versus nothing venture, nothing gain. Because that later principle is what really will help you scale your business. If you don't look at failures as failures, you're going to have to try versus like legal principles is like basically, okay, have we done all of our contract? Is everything ironclad? So I found that as being most challenging, not having too many people, which is why it's very important for me to have mentors. So I had mentors helping me, like understanding what's going on and, know your worth. Don't accept just any business that come your way, not the first one, but things that are actually in alignment with your business values. So those are the things that, as I was listening to you, I just wanted to share with you about the journey that I had.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and congratulations on getting over the 3-year mark. That's significant.
Yep, going on to 5. How do you view the current women empowerment movement across industries? And what would you like to see happen besides greater representation of women practitioners in the legal industry?
Yeah, so I cheer for those movements, and whenever I can, I help out, participate. And I think it's the key is to change people's mindsets. It's really that stereotype that women are less capable in STEM, or women are less achieved in the legal industry. Those are stereotypes that's not necessarily true. So creating programs that could help women to get to the same standard, same level of practice, that's great. But on the other hand, we don't necessarily need a lower standard. So, if
no, we don't.
I appreciate the effort sometimes to recognize us as women and try to really kind of give a pass when one doesn't really deserve one. I think that doesn't help as well as if you keep the same standard, but giving help when necessary to help the group get to that standard. So with that, I think, the PTO, for example, has great programs nowadays helping women entrepreneurs and getting to know the patent system, how they protect innovations, and those are great tours to give, so that they can eventually get to the same standard, maybe to their male counterparts. The same as there are programs at the PTAB, for example, and some courts who give women attorneys more opportunity to do stand up arguments. Those are great. Just help us to gain more experience. I think most of the time, keep the same standards. We can get to that, not necessarily in the same way, but we could get to that in our own way. And sometimes I tend to kind of use a metaphor for it, like, you have a destination, right? And your friends might get to the destination in one path, and you might take a different path. But as long as you can get to it, it doesn't really matter what path you take. And to me, I think the key to diversity, and women being part of the diversity, is to really respect each other, and respect that different people coming from different cultural backgrounds would have different ways to solve the same problem. But as long as they could solve the problem, it doesn't really matter what approach they take. I think that's the key to diversity. And from what I've seen, in a lot of law firms, for example, promote diversity by recruiting people from different backgrounds. But internally, they may still require or encourage people to think the way that others think. And they would guide you to travel the same path they think would work and lead to the destination. But I think that is diversity, but it's still not getting to the key of the diversity. You have to, if you could truly respect, people could take their own path to the same destination. I think that's true diversity.
I think sometimes peer pressure and groupthink are the major obstacles to diversity, true diversity, DEI, right? And I think one of the reasons why I actually decided to start this podcast, got some free time, but I had the virtual water cooler chat previous year, but not as a podcast. It was as a webinar or just chat with like executive coaches, brand strategists. And that was mostly during the pandemic when I was thinking, oh, no, people don't have time to go to the pantry and talk among like the water cooler. I didn't want to call it. There's like IP Cafe, and then there's like a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like, maybe I'll just go with a wellness theme. So I just did a virtual water cooler chat. And then sometime late November of last year, I actually interviewed a brand strategist. We had a virtual water cooler chat, and that was the last episode of sort of like a webinar converting into the podcast format, where they do a bunch of research, and I'm a small startup, so a lot of this is pretty 100% funded by myself, and my hard-earned money, and we do have some sponsors, but for the most part, it has been amazing to grow my team. And when I look for guests to interview, for right now, I'm really just focusing on giving a platform for women to talk and voice their opinion and their stories. And I don't think that, especially in STEM, there's not enough of those. Obviously, you could go to like the major conferences and hear people talk, and they would be very knowledgeable in sharing their expertise in their fields. But what is missing, in my opinion, is that how do we actually get there? Stories are great in terms of being source of inspiration to other women, and also other groups of that falls into the diversity, categories. So that's the reason why I wanted to do this virtual water cooler chat. Now you know the background of this. What does Mandy do for fun?
What did I do for fun? I read a lot. I watch movies, the good ones. A lot of documentaries. I like to watch those with my kids. I love to travel. We actually visited Switzerland, you probably know, last summer for like almost 3 weeks.
Wow.
And we plan to go to Tahiti with the kids this year, and New Zealand later this year too. So
Long flight.
Travel and just explore and visit new places.
Perfect. What are some of the key lessons learned that you would like to share with our audience?
So, part of overcoming the challenges, I think the key is really listen to yourself, keep your own vision, and I wouldn't say ignore the doubts. You would listen to the doubts, but the important thing is why they doubt. Like really see if there's some constructive suggestions there in the doubt. Don't doubt yourself just because there are doubts. In China, students are actually divided into the STEM track and non-STEM track in high school, right? Okay. So the STEM track is gonna, apply to universities and study science and in engineering. And typically, the suggestion, if you're a girl, you probably want to pick the non-STEM track because STEM is challenging. But I know I like STEM, so I picked the STEM track. Less than 20% were actually girls on that STEM track, but I did well. I worked hard and got to the top of my class, top one actually. So I got invited to join Tsinghua University. That's the MIT in China. If you're not familiar with the name, without having to apply. So I got admitted automatically to Tsinghua, and that's considered an honor, especially for girls. And at Tsinghua again, I was my class was less than 15% women. But I didn't let that scare me. I think if you can get into that class, that just means you're as good as your male counterparts, male classmates. So again, I worked hard and I graduated top of the class. And coming here, getting into the legal industry, it is challenging, but if you have that vision and you have that confidence in yourself, it's just a matter of figuring out how you adapt into this new environment, right? So, when I joined Finnegan right after my PhD degree, it is a totally different industry. It's think differently because as a engineer or scientist, it's a world of black and white, right or wrong, right? But legal industry is very different.
It's
gray. Exactly. It's different shades of gray, right? Mm-hmm. And your job is trying to argue that shade of gray is more white or more black, depending on which side you are. So it's a very different thinking style, but you can figure it out. I just basically observe and I think about why, and then I learn and adapt. And soon, you will feel that the partners recognize your progress. The clients actually start to give you acknowledgements, or they would send you messages and say you're doing a great job. So then then you're doing the right thing. You're on the right track. So I think if there's one suggestion I would give to my fellow women colleagues, keep your own vision, keep your own destination, but you get to choose how you get there. There are gonna be doubts. People would say that's not the right way to go. Look, I've got to establish the path here. Why don't you walk this way? Don't let that get in your way. And I think don't even I don't even argue that which way is better. I do it and show it. Once you actually get it done and get it done just as well, then you get to come back and explain to people why my path worked as well. So that's been my my story. As you could imagine, when I decided to start a new firm, there were friendly doubts. I've got a device against it, but I know my own vision. I know that I could learn, so I went ahead to do it. Now that 5 years passed, I can start to share stories about how we made it work. And I will continue to share our stories, our experience and lessons that we learn along the path. And I think that's very rewarding.
To piggyback off of what you said in terms of having your own vision, I think, so not that I have that much spare time anymore, but I really enjoy writing. And I started writing like short stories, and I published my own book. And it's basically turning my team into like a bunch of animals. And we call this the Sanctuary PTAB Village. And one of the things, I'm working on the sequel now. It's called Collaborating in Competitive Ecosystems. And one of the chapter, when you said about basically your vision and trust your vision, one of the chapter that it just comes so naturally is called Own Your Truth. And like you, when I first started, especially coming as a staff, I was non-attorney, and going into business, supporting attorneys as a virtual business right before COVID. And I did not know COVID was going to happen. I did it 3 months before. And so many people advised me against it. And I don't know what came over me. I think part of it is that, so my dad passed in 2017, and I continued to work and just sort of ignore a lot of signs that I needed to do something different. But then at some point, I think timing is so important. And at some point, I just thought that it's time. So I prep, right? Because I work with attorneys, of course I prep. So I sort of like prep myself to, to make sure that this is really not just flimsy decision. And I don't usually make flimsy decisions, but I needed to know because it's a huge financial risk for me to be going off on my own. And I had no idea how this was going to turn out. But I figured, hey, I'm going to be invasive by myself. I just need to pay the mortgage, it'll be fine. But it started scaling, and that became a little bit scary. And usually when I think year 1 and year 2, I was much more eager to please, accepting clients as they come. But then, I've talked to someone who is actually, he's the branding strategist, and his name is Sasha Strauss. And I've taken that advice much more seriously, is that you have to be careful about what client you take on, because it's liability. It's your time, and it's money, you can kind of make it back, but it's your time and it's your reputation. So those are the things that, struggling from being a people pleaser most of my life, supporting attorneys, and that's why, you don't become outstanding all years, by not being people pleasing, you know. But now it's like switching that role, being, supporting, like leading practitioners, and then becoming a business owner, leading your team, and none of them really are part of your company. Because most of my team are freelancers, but actually all of them except for me. So that conflict, and it's like the truth sometimes had to be stretched so many different ways. And you have doubts that sometimes it's like you just don't know exactly who to consult with, because a lot of it is confidential, so you don't consult with anyone. Mm-hmm. So you just try to figure it out. And the final thing that I wanted to, like, basically, because I'm Chinese from Hong Kong, been in the States forever, but part of it is like a lot of time I used to not really trust my gut decision. And I think it comes from being like a patriarchal society. My dad would tell me what to do. I was like, no, this is not right. And then my mom would be like arguing with my dad and, all these things. But like trusting my own decision. And when people are telling you what to do, I like what you said. You don't even have to argue because it's their opinion, not yours. It's your life, not theirs. Exactly. So I think that I'm just really glad that we had this chat because, it's very inspirational. And I hope that you had just as much fun as I did.
Yeah. And I do want to let you know that you and I worked together for so many years on so many cases, and back then I knew you as the hardworking, most reliable case manager, Ashley. But after you started VPG, I see a different person. I think there's so many talents of you that I didn't know before. So your capability of doing all these social media programs and kind of just putting people together and work as a business owner, those were unknown before, and now you unleash them beautifully. And I think that's a great thing to as listening to yourself, and as you said, it's your life. You get to live the way that you want.
Oh, thank you so much, Mandy. That was really, really, like, I don't know. I'm just grateful. You totally made my day. So I'm really glad that we had our chat. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. If our audience would like to find you, how do they get a hold of you?
Right. By email, mandy.son@bayes.law. We're lucky to get that domain name, anyways, law, to indicate that we're a law firm. But we also have an office in Northern Virginia, the DC metropolitan area, right in Tysons. So for those who are local, stop by. We can grab lunch and chat. I love to chat with all different people, and including you, Ashley, if you
this is not too far.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get together.